All right, YouTube. Today we're going to change out this valve that's leaking through. We're not going to change the whole box. We're just going to cut open the wall down here below it. To access the pipe, it comes down and it's somewhere down here. We're going to take the valve out of this new box by removing this nut right here and just swap them out. That's the plan. We're going to see how it goes. I'm kind of concerned about the diameter, like how big this nut is and how big that hole might be compared to how small this one is. But we'll see how it goes and we'll go from there. First thing we got to do is turn off the water. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out a section of drywall, which we want to make it as clean and straight as possible, if possible. All right. There it is. Well, it's exactly the same height. So what we might be able to do is just heat it up and pull it out, possibly. The problem with that is that generates a lot of extra heat in here that could melt this box. We don't want to have to replace that box. So let's try and get the nut off of here first. All right, it's loose. Let's try and suck some water out of it. I turned on the cold water faucet at the sink, so when I open this, it has like, it can possibly suck some air, because we want to try and get at least water out down below where we're going to heat it up, so we don't have all the extra heat, because the heat going in the wall will attack this box. If there's water in the pipe, it's not going to heat this pipe at all during all that excess heat that we're going to be pumping into the wall, so we want to try and keep that down to a minimum. Okay, we're gonna heat it up and try and break the solder joint loose. I'm gonna actually heat down here on the pipe to try and get some heat built up into here so I can stay as far away from that box as possible. And we'll be watching for steam. If we get an excessive amount of steam or water pushing up out of here, then we know that there's still water in there and we can go ahead and stop and try and get rid of some more of the water. Like that. Got that guy out of there. That one is absolutely as good as it possibly could go. And we gotta go set this somewhere so it doesn't melt anything or burn anything. Just so I don't forget, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the nut on there, because if I don't do it now and I forget later, I'll have this all soldered up and there will be no way to get the nut on there. Ask me how I know. Well, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to heat this up and we're going to wipe all this solder off there to where it's relatively smooth like the pipe, and then we're going to clean up the pipe. You know you did good on that if when you clean it up that most of the solder comes off. I like to turn that valve a little bit because you're going to have something connected here. If it comes straight out and the refrigerator comes straight back, it puts that in a bind. If we can get, the longer we can make the run of whatever tubing's coming out of here to make it turn down, the smoother all that's going to be. Kind of check with our cover, make sure we're not going to run into the side of our cover. So that'll give us more distance than just from here to here. We'll have more distance coming this other way. And turn that valve on. Looks to be good. We won't 100% know until we turn on the water. Pretty hot. We'll give that a few moments to cool down. I'd really like to make that tighter if I can. So there's a little plastic ear right here. I'm going to run the screw through there. And put it in reverse and push so I can waller out that hole. Just like that. Alright, so we'll go grab a drill bit. Alright, so we're gonna pre-drill this. There we go. See how much sturdier that box is now. Alright, that's cooled off enough that we can run our nut up here. It's just plastic, doesn't need to be very tight. Way sturdier than it was. Alright. Let's go turn on the water before we do the rest of this, just to make sure we don't have no leaks. Okay, the water's back on. Got no leaks. Did get a little bit of a run on the back, but you know, at the end of the day, I would rather have a run and know that I got that joint is full and it's holding as much solder as it can than to have a weak joint. You can still have a run and have a weak joint, but you know, law of averages. All right. Let's go with this. All right, that's it.